Hi, my name's Art Newman and I've been practicing family law for 33 years. I've tried cases in almost every county that you can imagine in the Chicago area. I've settled cases, I've done cases for millions of dollars, I've done cases where there's barely no money involved. I've represented teachers, I've represented police officers, I've represented multimillionaires, I've represented people who don't know how they're going to pay the rent next week. And during the course of my 33 years, I've learned that there's many mistakes that people make when they go through a divorce case. And what I mean by mistakes is actions that they take which will prolong the case and drive up costs. So I'm going to touch upon a few of those mistakes in the next few minutes to try to educate you on what not to do during a divorce case. The first thing that I would tell you is that you've been married to somebody, you're about to go through the very painful steps of ending your marriage. The most important thing you do that you won't hear from that many lawyers is treat your spouse with respect and dignity at all times. If you're in the house, don't make them feel miserable. Treat them decently. Treat them as if you were treating a member of your immediate family, your other family, your brothers, your sisters, your mother. Treat them nicely, because what you want when you go through a divorce case is you want the other spouse to accept that the marriage isn't over and to be able to come to a rational resolution of whatever disputes you might have. The next mistake that people commonly make that drive up the cost of their case is they're angry. If your spouse is doing something wrong, you're not going to fix it in the divorce process. You have to start looking forward, and being angry over issues that you can no longer control will not help you. So if your spouse comes home, don't be throwing insults at them. If your spouse has a girlfriend or a boyfriend, don't think you're going to solve that dispute in the divorce process, because you're not. And if you're angry and you try to take any form of retribution in terms of actions, embarrassing them, it's not going to help you, and all you're going to do is pay more money. It's not going to make your case better. Okay, for example, when you start your case, you don't want to serve your spouse at work, because if you embarrass them, they're going to want to embarrass you. So treat your spouse nicely, don't be angry, okay? It will keep the cost down. Another mistake that people commonly make in a divorce case is that they don't think that they're going to disclose all their assets. This could be an action, if you decide not to disclose all your assets or income, that can lead you over a cliff in terms of cost of a divorce. Because once you make your other spouse feel that you're hiding something, they're going to tell their lawyer to do whatever they have to do to find out what the truth is. Issue subpoenas to your employer, take your deposition, which is you being questioned in front of a court reporter under oath, have a deposition taken of your employer. All types of things can open up if you're not going to be honest about your assets. If you're not honest about your assets and income, you're asking for a prolonged process, much more expensive, and you basically make your spouse think that settling is not the way to go, because they might make a mistake. So they're going to want to put your case before a judge. Another mistake people commonly make in a divorce case is they use their lawyer as a therapist. If you're upset about your divorce, don't be spending a lot of time at $300 or $400 an hour talking to your lawyer about it, because your lawyer's not going to want to know about your feelings. Your lawyer's going to want to know about the facts of your case. And you need to realize, for phone calls that are prolonged, you're going to be charged. So if you need a therapist, don't think it's going to be your lawyer. So you got to think about every time you pick up the phone for the lawyer, what am I going to talk about? And do I really need to be talking to my lawyer? If you have questions about the progress of the case, fine. But don't think that your lawyer is going to make your feelings, make your anxiety go away. Now, if you are feeling anxious because you don't know the answer to something, then you need to call your lawyer. Another thing that people do during divorce cases is sometimes they start moving on to the next relationship before they're done with their first one. It's a very bad mistake to make. Although fault is never at issue in the Illinois courts, if you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend when you're going through a divorce, it tends to throw gasoline and make your spouse feel insulted and angry. And that's not something that you really want. You want your spouse to be able to resolve all the disputes with you. You don't want your spouse to be angry, because if they're angry, they're going to prolong the process and you're going to end up paying for it. The final mistake that people make is they fight over custody. Okay? Custody is something that rarely should be litigated and is litigated very often. It's the most expensive aspect of the divorce process. The divorce court judges call upon child's representatives, a lawyer for your child, to help them decide the case. That lawyer will cost you $300 or $400 an hour. They also bring in what's called 604B witnesses, who are basically specialists in child-related issues. They're typically psychologists or psychiatrists with a lot of experience in the area, and they cost a lot of money. So your best bet, think about whether or not you are the parent who should have the child for the majority of the time. Are you available? Are you the one who works more than the other parent? What parent is closer to the child? And try to think of those questions and answer them objectively. Because if the other parent would be the better parent to be the primary caretaker, then that's the way it ought to work out. That doesn't mean you're not going to be involved with your child. It doesn't mean you're not going to have significant time. It doesn't mean you're not going to participate. But if you're able to resolve a custody dispute without a lot of conflict with your spouse, then your children will tend to grow up healthier, and you will spend less money on your divorce. So what I've just pointed out are a few mistakes that people typically make in divorce cases. When you sit down and you're going to go through it, if you think about it and you think about it as a problem that's important, that needs to be resolved fairly, and you think about some of the things that I've just talked about, you'll do okay. I have been doing family law for 33 years. I do it in Evanston, where I see clients, and I do it in my office in downtown Chicago at 221 North LaSalle. I've been practicing for 33 years. I've had experience in almost every aspect of family law and child custody. I've tried custody cases, I've tried complex financial cases, I've taken multiple cases to the appellate court, I've even gone to the Illinois Supreme Court. I've had experience with cases prior to trial, I've had experience with cases after trial. I've represented many lawyers, and I find that to be a very high compliment, because lawyers are very careful as to who they choose to represent them in a matrimonial family law case. I've represented many doctors. I've tried cases with a lot of assets. I've tried cases with a lot at stake, and I've had a very successful record. Now, what I try to do in my approach to a case is I always start off, I want to know what my client's issues are. I want them to tell me as much about their marriage, how long they were married, how many children they have, what the assets are. If my client doesn't know what the assets are, I will go and find out. Once I have that information, I encourage my client to come to a fair resolution. I explain to them, you're not going to prevail on every issue. If you can get the 3 top issues on your list resolved favorably, you're doing well. But don't expect to have every issue go your way, because you have to be willing to compromise in some areas to come to a resolution that is less costly. So the name of the game is to be tenacious, but to be pragmatic, and to keep your client advised as to what the costs are going to be and what the problem is to be solved. Your client is looking for somebody to be rational, because this is a difficult time for them. I feel like I provide that. I feel like I try to keep the cost down in a case. I feel like I am able to explain to litigants and spouses what they may be looking at before they go forward. So the most important thing is for people to understand that the courts are not perfect, that settling a case is probably in their best interest if they can. However, if their spouse is being unreasonable, they may have to seek out a judge to decide it. So in my experience, I find that listening to my client, communicating with my client, always being there for my client, and always being prepared in court, and always being prepared before I meet and have to give advice on a particular case is the best way to go. My name's Art Newman. I'm located in Evanston and Chicago. My office address is 221 North LaSalle, Suite 2300, Chicago, Illinois 60601. My phone number is 312-726-9235. My email address is anewman, N-E-W-M-A-N, the number 1, @ameritech.net, anewman, N-E-W-M-A-N, 1, @ameritech.net. Look forward to meeting you.